Dear friends of Complexity in a Frame, another talk with Hans Fleischner. The most important object of this program is in front of Hans on the table. It's a red bag, and Hans will tell us what is the history behind the red bag.
So, we can start?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just start this way. The red bag you see here, I have actually not yet photographed. I call it the chocolat, using the English article the and chocolat, in fact, because their inspiration was because of something in France. And the two books that are now in the internet shows, the book one shows the original red bag, which I created in 1998. And I photographed more than 10 years. Then I created the second generation of the red bag. And that, you see, when my two friends, and it's, I say like a reintroduction of the red bag, you see two of my friends who have these two bags in their hand. And these are the two main bags, but I have one more bag which is called the punk. And the punk was created already in the 90s and was not so much photographed. And what I did, I had that punk, I put more and more red color onto it, and then started photographing it more and more. So these two books show kind of developing a little bit of these different red bags, but the subject matter is always the same, the red bag. So here I have one more, which I will take to Paris in April and photograph it. And yeah, it's a little bit smaller than the other ones, which has nothing to do with the way the original bag is. And what I did, so that you see the beginning of the red bag, I just brought the paper with me.
Ah.
This is the Greek, the fruit and vegetable store where I got this from. So when I was teaching in Zakynthos in 3 years in a row during the summer academy in Zakynthos, I was teaching a photo workshop there. And the teaching was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So after fiesta, etc., I would, go down from my bungalow, pass by the shop, buy 2 apples. They give me this bag, and I just fell in love with this bag because this is natural. It's a recycled material. And I asked the guy, "Can I have a bunch of these things?" And he said, "You can only buy it by the kilo." So he brought me from the market in the city a kilo of this bag, and I took it to Vienna. And I was thinking at that time to use it for drawings, and did some of that. But then I had these bags. And so you see, basically, that's roughly, the reason why it's smaller is because the color sucks me more. And I would always put the second one in to give it more body. But that's how it started out. That's the bag. How it started out. That's the basis of it.
The mother of all bags.
Huh?
The mother of all red bags.
The cousin or the mother, or whatever you want to say. And the red color comes to it. And I got something important there. Okay, never mind. Some letters inside.
The Hans Fleischner diary.
Maybe a secret message. I have to check it later. What I also wanted to show you, I have something like this. Is the, like, you can see, this is the 1-to-1, no? Because there's no sucking of the red. And I created this, and I call this the red bag contemplating. And I have photographed it on several occasions, and again I will take it to Paris again, because the reason why contemplating, it's almost like if you have an idea or if you're thinking about the red bag, and almost like a rehearsal kind of thing.
Mhm.
Putting this somewhere, or stick it somewhere, put it in a sofa, or ask a person to hold it, or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's very easy to transport. No? So that's the red bag contemplating, which is sometimes being photographed. Okay, man. We're back here
For
on the
people who believe
back.
in the flat world series.
Huh?
For people who believe in the flat world series.
And so I actually, just recently again talked to. I mean, when I say reintroduced the red bag, and I asked my friends if they could pose with it, etc. And these two friends know the red bag from the very beginning, from 1998, and basically what I was saying, reintroducing, is to again remind people of that project, because last year it was 25 years of the existence of that project, huh? And so that's why I made 2 books, and within this year I make at least 1, if not 2, red bag books. And what the red bag became, and it was interesting for me also. On one hand, it was a response to this kind of situation we had, where, if you want to say, a lot of blood was in the news, war and all kinds of stuff, and this was kind of a reaction on my part to create something to make people aware of what's going on.
Mhm.
And initially, I just photographed it from where I live in Vienna, in the south, and took a walk and just put the bag into different situations. Not a person holding. I just put the bag as a kind of a focus, and then you see everything what's around it.
Mhm.
And there is no, how can I say, there was no script kind of thing, and there's no kind of a step-by-step plan as to where to do what with it. I just took it along, And an interesting thing was when I showed it to a friend of mine, who's also a photographer, and I made 2 exhibitions at his little gallery in the First District, 1999 and 2001. When he touched that bag, he felt something, because he has that sensibility, this kind of haptic, sensibility. He was holding this, and he right away linked up with that. So we made the shows, and he photographed me with the red bag. Then I let him photograph also the red bag as like another point of view. And he had an assistant, and I was talking, so yeah, I think, I will photograph this with people. So this assistant says, I model for you. So I went with this guy into the Augarten, the famous park, and I took pictures of him there. And then consecutively, I always more and more also photographed it with people. I photographed it by itself, simply holding it, so you see my hand or something like that. Or I put it into certain positions and I photograph it. But I also photographed it with people, men, women, groups.
I know. I think 12 or 13 years ago, you came here to the bookshop and you asked one of our employees,
I remember.
Isabella,
Yes.
to go with you to Augarten,
Yes.
because he wanted to take the photographs. And first she was very shy and she was very suspicious,
Yeah.
and asked me, do you think I can trust him? And I said, I think, yes. He's reading so many interesting books about the Spanish Civil War. He must be a good guy. And so she followed you to the Augarten.
Yes. We took some nice pictures, but I lost contact with her. Is she still living there?
She's in Scandinavia now.
She's back here.
No, in Scandinavia she is.
She's still staying there?
Yes.
Nowhere, huh?
I think so, yeah.
But that's a long time already, huh?
Mhm.
Because she just went for a job there, right?
Yeah.
I think her sister studies or was studying under.
Yeah, there was such a thing, yeah. Mhm.
Anyway, so I photographed a lot of people with it, and it's interesting how people relate to it. the way they investigate it, the way they touch it, you know. Like, just as when I take pictures of people, just portraiture, I do not manipulate the people. I might say, turn this way, turn that way, or give me a little smile, something like that. But I'm not trying to manipulate and make the person into something he or she is not, you know. And so I create kind of the framework, if you want to say, and then let people function within that. So I always keep, if you want to say also, even if I have a conceptual environment or if I have some plan of photographing, I leave the street photograph alive, let things happen with what the people do, and let me respond to that. No? So with the redback the same way. I mean, this is a fixed structure, but number one, there's so many ways you can photograph it because of what the light is doing on the surface and everything, but also what people, the way people respond. Because after a while there, stories develop. And suddenly somebody tells me, you said such and such. I never said that. But somebody is telling a story about the redback. Somebody picks it up and plays it back to me. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting how, if you want to say, how this can grow, you know. And from the whole time, I was always thinking, somebody said, oh, you must, if you make this 2 meters big in a gallery, I said, look, I'm a photographer. I created this, and I want to make it big through the photography. Just like in advertising. By repeatedly mention a product, by repeatedly, you know, showing something, people become aware of that product. So I handled the redback this way, that number one, I can blow it up any size I want. Or the biggest picture that exists of the original redback is a photograph 4 by 6 meters, which was exhibited first time in the Museum of Applied Arts. You know, they have this big area, big sort of atrium there, and there was that big picture. Then I traveled with that picture to Lille and displayed it there, and it fit beautifully into some gymnasium, and just at the stage, perfect, 4 by 6 meters. The same thing I did in Port-Beau, and they renovated a dancing hall and then used it for events and also exhibitions. And I made an exhibition again. The whole stage was taken up by this huge picture, and it's on a plastic plant, the same way which was used before for advertising, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Being printed at that time still, you know, in the late, was this printed? No, this was printed early 2000 or so, but still using the old printers where they had maximum, I think, 18 dpi or something like that. Yeah. But being that big, if you take this picture, put it on the wall there, you will feel as if you look at it like that, because you can, of course, when you go closer, you see the points. The points. So the interesting thing that came also up now with the publishing of the first redback book is the 2 comments I received. One comment was from an American artist who was also in a workshop with me in Tokyo. It was my photo workshop. He joined that because he wanted to know more about photography. And he has a very deep knowledge of art history and is very observant. So what was interesting in his comment, because he knows so many other photographs of mine while we lived in Japan, but also now from the books that I had published, black and white in New York, black and white here, black and white wherever. And when he looked at that first redback book, his comment was, first of all, he was really excited. He loved it. Said, "Hot damn, the redback!" But then he gave his comment where he sees the different types of photography of mine within the context of the redback book. So he has a very keen eye. And the other response was by an artist friend. She's originally, I think, a photographer, but she has done many other things, cultural projects, and traveled a lot, etc. She's from Nigeria. And what she said to the redback is something that was so, again, was very keen, her observation. And so it was nice for me to get these kind of reactions. So I can say the redback is on the right track, kind of thing. And that's why I don't get bored photographing this. Every time I take this and I have the camera, something will happen. And I have also photographed this a lot in black and white. That's one thing. Very different films, getting different atmospheres. Then, of course, with the digital photography, when I started doing it in digital photography, I have the computer and I can change to black and white, which is also very interesting, black and white, because it's a different black and white than when it comes from the film. Initially, I photographed this by using color transparency film, but the processing was cross-processing. So I had a very strong red, and then everything else becomes green, a little bit blue, a little bit yellow. But the red is very dramatic because it's, how can I say, no attention is taken away from other colors. The focus is very clear on the red back. And that also was, I spent about maybe 3 years or something photographing like that. And suddenly that film is gone. The whole transparency business was, first of all, just almost disappeared. Very few films. So there are some films, of course, around, but very expensive now. I used a Fuji film or something. It was cheaper, and it gave me perfect result. The Kodak films didn't give me that result. So with the Fuji, it worked well. I did some photographing also with infrared. Then it becomes yellow. This becomes yellow. No? It's interesting. But what I did also, I had infrared film, and I had prints made, direct print, no? So it's yellow. But then I also took and asked the lab to treat this, because it was infrared film also cross-processed, for example, I also did. So I have blue. And I had some prints made where the red bag is blue. Where then suddenly somebody says, I know this guy, he takes pictures of the blue bag. I said, it's not the blue bag, it's the red bag. It is through the photo technology it became, it became blue. And
if you would have to guess, how many photographs of the red bag did you take in your life?
look, it's 25 years, right? It must be thousands. I never calculate this kind of thing. I mean, particularly even with film, because of course it was more expensive to photograph. Now I photograph digitally. You go pop, 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 pop. Sometimes I can say this when before I was doing some shooting, it doesn't matter what it is, with film, maybe within a day, if I did a lot of shooting, maybe you shoot 5 rolls. I mean, I'm not talking about commercial photography, where they might shoot 100 rolls a day or something like that. And it's, so you have maybe, 100, 150 photographs that you took. Now, if you're shooting with digital, it sometimes is 10 times that much within a day, And one reason also why I shoot this with motor drive, and not fast speed, but actually myself just triggering like pop, pop, pop. Case by case, especially also with telelenses, even so there's a stabilizer in the lens. You come sometimes into a situation where you're not getting it, the focus. So what I do is, either I go with the camera like this, I go pop, 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 and then in that movement there is one stable moment. With film, I would never do this because you go crazy, with the cost, you know. So being able to photograph freely with the digital, of course, that again allows you to experiment various things, you know, and because of the opportunities you have there through the medium. So right now I'm actually discussing with some people to maybe make an exhibition outside of Europe, and if they manage to organize that, I'll do it. No? If they cover the expenses, I'll do it, because I have to fly somewhere and I have to stay somewhere. And but I said also to the people there that have an interest that if we do it, maybe we should also think about such a thing as doing a workshop, let other people photograph, and to develop more of a dialogue. Not only an exhibition and that's it, and people say, well, or whatever, or what is this? But use that object as a means to establish some dialogue visually and also culturally, because the environment is very different from Vienna. The person I'm talking with, she has a lot of experience in that area, so she will check it out. So maybe by end of this year or next year we'll know if we do or we don't. But it only works if we get financing. And we have some people here that could finance it, but it's kind of official money. So if they accept what she organizes in her country and they support it, then we can do it. Because with the usual commercial sponsors, we won't be able to get that money. And personally, it's not affordable.
But it's it's a little bit weird because, in fact, the red bag could have been also a wonderful object for a public relations campaign, for a publicity campaign, for all kinds of products, all kinds of ideas. Yeah? The red bag is very flexible.
Yeah, well, one thing is you have, of course, with the red bag, which we have already explored, thanks to digital technology, that you can take the photographs of it and print it on materials, which you then can make products with. You could make a bag, but it's not a red plain, it's the bag that has that bag on it. But not like I would not do it this way that I say, okay, if I have a A3 bag, I want this in the middle, it's boring, you know. So much rather print this in a big size and then cut into it, just like the way you cut into any kind of textile. But if it's a series of products, in the people, again, this becomes one, you know. And of course you can then, when you promote the products, if that is a shirt, if this is a jacket, if this is a bag or whatever, in the advertising for these products, you can use the red bag as it is, no? Or their books, their exhibitions, so that feeds into that. I mean, yeah, you can make a cup, you know, just like they used comics to put on all kinds of products, no? And we'll see if we go. Again, that involves also quite some money to do that. You can make prototypes, that's easy, digital. But I don't know if Vienna is the good place to do, because it's always worth to try, but I have done a lot of work here, and those people who really have the money are very conservative and are very careful as to what they do. In terms of fashion, in terms of interior things, everything, it doesn't matter what it is. So, but thanks to internet, I can reach so many other people, and that's actually some people I'm now considering, or they have the possibility to work together. We met through the internet. And for example, you remember you made this interview with me about the textiles?
Yes.
From the photograph to the textile. A friend of mine saw this. The first thing she did, she said, "Can I share this?" I said, "Sure, share it." Now I'm talking to her. We're thinking, how are we going to do another step? The step I made, you know, this is also it was almost 30 years ago. I mean, actually, I introduced it about 40 years ago. Then here in Vienna, I started it about 30 years ago. If we do it today, we just take another approach. Number one, the digital technology helps us to develop something. Plus the internet to be able to advertise it. Because if you use the usual advertising for any kind of product, you know how expensive it is, newspaper, magazine, and maybe in the movie house, you know, advertising. So these days you can do advertising with very nominal expense. And it was actually just recently I talked to somebody about a story that I want to publish. And you know what she said? Well, let's do this over Twitter. Well, now it's called X, right? As a serial kind of story. And you get subscribers through that. I will talk again to them, so if she handles that, I'll let her do that. She can have her cut, because so many times I have so many things to do that sometimes I cannot do everything. You need some people to work together with.
But now you told us so much about the red bag. We have already more than 20 minutes. I just wanted to ask you if you would tell, or if you... There's one great secret with the red bag, and I think everybody's interested to know one special point. How long did it take for you to clean your hands from the red color when you made red bag 2?
Actually, it was quite a clean job. So you know what I did to get this kind of surface, and also to get the shape the way it is. I did not paint like that, but I used spoon, fork, knife, and applied, and let applied, and then let it drip down. So that gets a structure. In this case, I used so much red color. I even used and poured it inside, so it was like red color, like this down there. And then I let it harden a little bit, but it was still soft. And then I moved it up inside. This is very particular. There are 3 cutlery things in it. There's one spoon here, because the bag was collapsing, right? From the wetness, from the weight of the color and the wetness. But I put a spoon in here, and then I squeeze this. So the spoon is like a construction, you know. Also, this line here, I made this and pulled this. So because I had the experience from previously working the first bag, what it means, and then I had so many other. So I became quite efficient to create this. Then I have a small spoon that runs here. You only see it like this. It runs here to keep apart this thing. And finally, I have a small fork. After small fork,
there's an axis.
So it won't collapse. So it's really like an architectural, approach to the whole thing. The main thing I can say, if you want to say secret or whatever, in creating already the first red bag, the interaction between the paint and the paper, how that is not only just the creative process, but is really creating something. The way the color works with the paper. And the first generation what I had from my coffee, I had this, what you call it, like container. I had 2. So in the morning, for example, sometimes I put something on, I just put it there so it could drip down the color. No? Then switch and put this onto the metal containers here. Again, I put color on there, let it drop down. So I did the first bag I made. I think I almost took a month or so, because a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening. and let it always dry. And that little bit of color, the moment it dries, it works with the paper, right? Then you're putting some, and then like doing this, then color runs like this. So there is really, how can I say, the paint also, you can say, makes the bag through the interaction with the paper. That was the first generation. And it wasn't red all the way inside. It was only, you could see the drops, how the color runs down. The new generation of bags, which I made in 2012, I took another approach because I knew what will happen, paint and paper, and chose another approach, like in this particular case, having 2 spoons and a fork inside, which is only in this bag. The other bags don't have that. But the other bags also, because I had learned from the first generation of bag, I started to do this kind of thing like you do in pottery, You squeeze a little bit, you do a little bit like that, and do like this. If the paper comes like this, okay, then make this kind of crease so they stand apart. That create, to some extent, I use the same technique to create the red bag with color and this paper, but the knowledge that I acquired from the first generation, I was able to invest in creating the shapes. And that's it.
So I thank you very, very much. Up from now I will call you Hans Fleischner, the Rodin of the red bag, because it's also very sculptural work. And what will be the next theme for the next talk?
This will be very interesting because I'm right now selecting photographs that I took during the Corona time, and it's only Vienna. And I have two types. Right now I'm selecting the analog shooting, and I also have digital shooting. 1 year daytime, 1 year nighttime. During this Corona time, where being a photographer helped me to move around a little bit, because you were allowed to do something. In Vienna they were not as strict as in Paris, but at least I have a camera. They say, "What are you doing here?" I can say, "I'm taking a picture," So and very exciting and very interesting photography because I had a lot of time to experiment with different films, etc. And it's really, I'm excited while I'm editing it now. So I think during March, which now I dedicate, first of all, I don't think I might manage, not the first book already, but I could give you a preview, maybe 30% or something like that.
Okay, so you see there are very exciting projects waiting for you. Thank you, Hans, for the interview. Thank you for the informations. And don't forget, take your camera with you. Take photos everywhere, whenever you are in the mood to do so, because the worst photos are those you don't take. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Já apresentava-los.
Very, very, very serious.